By the time abuse has been in your life long enough, you no longer feel like you're living a life anymore. You're living a reaction. You wake up already scanning. You listen before you settle in. You check tone before you can trust words. You feel the room before you feel yourself. A shift in his face can ruin your whole nervous system faster than a good thing can ever land. That is how bad it gets. Your body learns to read danger better than it remembers desire, and then you sit there wondering why you cannot picture a future anymore. Of course you cannot. You've been dragged so deep into management that freedom starts sounding like a language you used to speak, not a life you get to have. This is the theft that nobody talks about properly. He did not just hurt your feelings. He did not just break your trust. He did not just say cruel shit and make you cry in the bathroom with the fan on so nobody would hear you falling apart. He got into your range, your imagination, your confidence, and your ability to think past tonight. And somewhere along the way, the woman who could picture more started organizing her whole existence around impact control. Dinner, tone, texts, silence, timing, moods, money, kids, lies, tension, fallout, recovery, and repeat. Every day starts looking like some kind of twisted little game of how to keep the next hit from not landing as hard. And then people have the nerve to act confused when you say you feel trapped. No shit. You've been living in a mental prison where every thought has to pass through him before it gets to become yours. This episode is for you if you are still in it and part of you knows you are disappearing. It is for you if you are trying to leave, but your body panics every single time your brain gets serious. This is for you if you've already left and still feel fried, ashamed, or disconnected in ways that nobody warned you about. This is for you if you do not need soft little comments about choosing yourself. You need something more useful than that. You need proof that you can still get out, that you can heal, that confidence is not dead, peace is not for other people, and freedom is not some fantasy your traumatized body made up because it wanted relief. You need to know that the part of you still reaching for more is not ridiculous. It is the only honest thing left in a life that has been asking you to betray yourself daily. I'm Megan Webster. I'm an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast where survival ends, shadow becomes power, and you rise into the woman impossible to manipulate, magnetize, or replace. Today, we are talking about how to have hope inside of abuse. Not hope that he changes, or that this apology is finally the magic one, or that one decent weekend somehow erases the whole pattern you've been bleeding inside of. I'm talking about the hope that helps you leave, that helps you heal, that helps you trust yourself again, that helps you become confident again, that helps you get free while your body is still scared as hell. I am not here to hand you bullshit and send you back into the same fire with better understanding. I am here to drag your hope out of his hands and put it back where it belongs, which is in your life, your body, your choices, your money, your future, and your self-respect. Because that is the ugly part. Hope got used against you. He kept you emotionally alive just enough to stop you from fully facing what he was doing. A softer tone would show up right when you thought you were done. Tears would show up right when your body was closing. One decent conversation would drop in after weeks of chaos. A promise would appear the second your mind started getting honest. Sex would come in after conflict and make your whole nervous system want to believe the connection had returned. Then you would sit there, exhausted and starving, trying to decide whether the good version was the real version and whether maybe, just maybe, the man who is being wrecking you also could be the man who makes the pain make sense. Confusion is part of the trap. It is also why so many of you think the problem is that you still have hope. The problem is that your hope got wrapped around the wrong person. If part of you still wants peace, you still want your mind back, your body back, you still want money that is yours, you want mornings that do not end in dread, you still want to stop bracing for every sound, you still want to laugh without checking the room first, and this is not about being weak or delusional. That part of you is a life force. The point of this episode is not to tell you to stop hoping. The point is to make sure your hope stops serving the man hurting you and starts serving the woman trying to survive him. So what does abuse actually do to hope? Abuse trains you out of your future in 1,000 tiny ways before you ever realize what's happened. Nobody wakes up one day and calmly decides, I think I'm going to stop imagining a better life now. It happens slower than that. Your thoughts shrink first. Your plans get postponed. Your wants get delayed. Your decisions get tangled. Your standards are negotiated. Your nervous system gets drafted into full-time surveillance, and now life is not being lived, it's being managed. Once that becomes part of your normal, hope stops feeling practical because your body is busy doing something else. You are trying to keep the next explosion, withdrawal, accusation, silence, guilt trip, mood, punishment, or twisted conversation from ripping through the room again. This is why so many of you stop thinking about next year and start thinking about tonight. Tonight matters to you because it has consequences. It can go sideways. It can cost you energy that you do not have. It can turn into a fight that lasts 3 to 5 days. It might wreck the kids. It can drain your account. It might leave you shaking in the bathroom or crying in your car or lying beside someone you do not feel safe with, trying to breathe quietly so you do not start something. Against that level of immediate threat, of course your future starts feeling fuzzy. It is hard to dream when your whole body is stuck in damage control. Confidence gets destroyed in places like this because every thought you have ends up being dragged through a version of his reality. You notice something is off, and suddenly the issue is your tone. You say something hurt, and suddenly the whole conversation is about your sensitivity. You ask a direct question, and now you are interrogating him. You call it a lie, and somehow you are the problem for making things tense. After enough rounds of that bullshit, your mind stops trusting what you think. You know, but you do not trust what you know. You feel, but you do not fully stand in what you feel. A decision starts forming, then doubt comes in. That kind of erosion wrecks hope because hope needs some relationship with self-trust. When your inner voice has been argued with, mocked, twisted, punished, and worn down for so long, even your own freedom starts sounding too uncertain to grab hold of. Then there is the exhaustion. And it's not like you've had a long week tired. I mean the kind of exhaustion that makes joy feel like work. The kind of tired that makes getting through the grocery store feel like a fucking marathon. The kind of tired where you know your life is bad, but the steps required to make change feel so huge that staying starts looking like less of a choice and more just like your reality. Abuse creates that kind of depletion because your system never fully gets to rest. A quiet day is not peace when part of you is still waiting for your turn. A nice moment is not safety when your body learned it can flip fast. Sleep is not rest when your nervous system is still listening. Hope will get buried under that kind of fatigue because fatigue lies. It tells you that this is all too much and it's too big, that you cannot carry change, that your freedom is probably for stronger people. It makes survival look permanent when really it is just what your body has been forced to get good at. I think one of the ugliest parts of this is how normal it starts to feel, where abuse gets dangerous in a way that people on the outside rarely will ever understand. You stop being shocked by the things that should shock you. You stop being outraged by things that still anger you. You start treating tiny scraps of calm like they are a good life. You keep calling yourself lucky because you did not blow up that time. You call it progress because the insult wasn't as bad. You call it a better week because the disrespect came with less volume. That is not healing. That is adaptation. And that is a person learning how to live inside of less and call it enough because the cost of admitting the truth feels bigger than the cost of shrinking 1 more inch. So when I'm telling you hope does not disappear because you are not intelligent enough, I truly mean that. It gets so buried under fear, management, confusion, exhaustion, and self-doubt, under the labor of living around somebody else who keeps making your body pay attention to him before you pay attention to yourself. It's buried under the effort of caring too much for too long while trying to pretend you're still functioning normally. Under all the ways that abuse teaches you to make yourself smaller, quieter, softer, less certain, less demanding, and less alive. That burial is real, but it is not final. So how does hope get hijacked by the narcissist? This starts to happen when he learns exactly how little he has to give in order to stop you from leaving emotionally. That is the part too many people miss. He does not have to become a good man. He does not need to become safe. He doesn't need to repair what he broke in any long-lasting way. He only has to interrupt the pain at the right time, and that is enough for you. Right when your body is reaching the edge, here comes the apology. Right when your mind starts getting clear, here come the tears. Right when your detachment begins, here comes the tenderness. Right when you are done, here comes the future talk. Right when the damage is the hardest to ignore, here comes the softer version of him you have been starving for. He does not heal the wound. He just throws enough relief into the room to make you question whether the wound means what you think it means. That is why one good weekend can buy him another 3 to 6 months of access. Why one decent conversation can scramble your whole nervous system. Why sex after conflict can feel like reconnection when really it's just your body trying to latch onto relief. Which is why a promise can hit so hard even when you already know you've heard 10 versions of this before. Emotional starvation changes scale. Tiny scraps start feeling massive when you've been deprived for long enough. A man who says one kind thing after weeks of cruelty can feel more moving than he should. A calm night will feel like a miracle. A few tears can feel like evidence of a soul. That does not mean you are stupid. It means your body has been living off of crumbs inside of abuse. The only reason why you are still hoping because relief feels so big to you when you've been living inside of emotional starvation. That is the absolute truth. Starving people get emotional over crumbs. That doesn't make crumbs a meal. A narcissist relies on the confusion. He knows the apology does not have to be deep if the timing is right. That tenderness does not have to last if it lands right when you're shutting down. That one little glimpse of the man you wanted can pull you back toward the story you keep trying to tell yourself about who he really is. Meanwhile, the actual pattern stays exactly where it always has been, sitting there like a loaded gun on the table while you are being distracted by a bouquet from the same hand that keeps pulling the trigger. This is why you can know that something is wrong and still find yourself hoping again. He interrupts the pain long enough to make your body unclench, and when your mind starts bargaining. Maybe this time it is different. Maybe this is what he needed. Maybe he finally sees it. Maybe the good version is the real version. Maybe the cruelty was pain or stress or fear or shame or childhood wounds or anything. But the simpler truth is that he keeps hurting you and then managing your distance from the hurt so you never fully leave it. That's how you get hijacked. Hope stops living in your future and stops orbiting his next move. And that costs you more every time. Your clarity, your self-respect, the ability to measure the relationship honestly. Once your hope is tied to him, you stop looking at the whole picture. You start looking for signs, a tone, a moment, a touch, a conversation, a sliver of softness. Now the relationship is being evaluated by interruptions instead of by the pattern, which is how you end up seated in a life that keeps making you miserable while still telling yourself it might turn around. He does not have to become different to keep that story alive. He only needs to change for 1 minute. I have shared this fairly often on social media, specifically my TikTok lives, a little bit less here, but I have lived through 2 narcissistic relationships back to back, and the difference between them taught me everything about what hope does when it is pointed in the wrong direction. In the first abusive relationship, I was starving for anything I could turn into proof. I did not need much, which was a very dangerous space for me. A softer tone would pull me back in. A semi-decent conversation would buy him more time. If he sounded reflective for 5 minutes, if he apologized in a way that felt human, if he gave me one night where he felt warmer, calmer, or more open, I would hold on to it like it meant something bigger. I kept trying to make sense and meaning out of the scraps because the truth was still too painful to hold at once. My hope was completely tied to him, who he could become, what he might fully understand one day. Whether this version of him was the truth or the cruelty was whatever story let me stay for another little while. I was not hoping for freedom back then. I was hoping that he would become the reason I didn't need it. With my ex-husband, that fantasy was dead. I knew exactly what I was in and what I was looking at. There was no part of me that was trying to turn his crumbs into a future. I was not waiting for some big breakthrough conversation to suddenly have the whole thing be safe. I had zero hope for him. None. The only hope I had left was that my son and I were going to get out, and it was only a matter of time. That changed the quality of everything. My hope stopped sounding like maybe he will get it, and it started sounding like I am going to get us out. It was not emotional, it was practical. It was about safety, money, planning, protection, telling the truth, making decisions, holding on to the fact that even if I felt terrified or overwhelmed or heartbroken and completely fucking exhausted, this still would not be the rest of our lives. So that is the difference that I want you to hear in this episode today. One kind of hope keeps you emotionally tied to the man hurting you. The other kind pulls your life back towards you. One keeps asking whether he can change. The other starts asking what you need in order to get free. I have lived both lives, and I can tell you without hesitation that only one of those will save you. So what does false hope sound like? It's sneaky because it likes to dress itself up like love or patience or fairness. It does not usually sound ridiculous in your own head. It sounds thoughtful, like you are trying not to overreact. That is how it keeps getting a free pass, while it quietly handcuffs your future to a man who keeps showing you exactly what staying with him costs. Maybe this time he will get it. Maybe I did not explain it clearly enough. Maybe if I stay calmer, it would go better. Maybe this version of him is the real one. Maybe once the stress is gone, things will be different. Maybe if I loved him the right way, this would stop. Listen to where all of that points. None of it asks you what your life is becoming. None of it asks you how much you've already lost. None of it asks you whether you can actually live like this without disappearing. Every version keeps your attention fixed on him, his awareness, his remorse, his growth, his capacity, his choice, his next chance. Your whole future stays parked in his lane, and that is why false hope is so expensive. It makes your life wait on a man who has already shown you how willing he is to let you pay for his access. False hope also keeps turning your effort into the center of the conversation. Suddenly, the issue is not the pattern. It's what else you can try, clearer explanation, calmer tone, better timing, more patience, more understanding, more love. More work from the one person already doing far too much. It's one of the filthiest parts of abusive relationships. You get turned into a full-time editor of your own humanity while the actual problem keeps sitting there in plain sight. If you can be kept busy improving your delivery, you never have to fully face the fact that the person receiving it may simply not care enough to stop causing damage. And this false hope is why it hooks people with big hearts so hard. It whispers that staying confused is compassionate, that waiting is wise, that understanding him is your depth, and giving one more chance is strength. Meanwhile, your body is deteriorating. You have no more confidence. Your nervous system is cooked. Your joy is on life support. Your money is dissipating. Your standards are lower. Your self-respect is thinner. And a lot of you are still calling that love when what you're experiencing is grief. The hardest part of the false hope often sounds smart when what is really happening is the fear of facing the loss. If you keep hoping, you do not have to fully grieve it. If you keep bargaining, you do not have to fully admit what this is. If you keep finding one more reason to stay, you do not have to sit with the fact that the relationship you wanted may never actually exist outside of the tiny moments he uses to keep you emotionally seated. That is why false hope can feel so sincere. It's not just denial, it is pain management. It helps you avoid the free fall for a little bit longer. The problem is that while it protects you from one kind of pain, it feeds another kind every single day. Here is a test that I want you to apply to your own life. If your hope right now keeps your eyes on him, it is false. If it depends on his insight, it is false. If it requires him becoming someone he has not consistently shown you he is willing to become, it is false. If it keeps your life in waiting mode, it is false. If it keeps asking what else you can do instead of asking how much it's costing you, it is false. This has nothing to do with your intelligence for feeling all of this. It just means that your hope got aimed at the wrong target, and we are going to correct that. I want to get into what real hope actually is. There's a version of hope that keeps you trapped and always looking at him, right? And it tries to make meaning out of all of it. That is not the kind of hope I want for you. The kind of hope that leaves your whole future sitting in the hands of the person already making your life smaller. It keeps your nervous system tied to his next mood, promise, performance, and his next chance at sounding convincing. A life built like that does not belong to you. It belongs to an abusive cycle. Now, the kind of hope that I'm talking about isn't pretty. It does not come wrapped in some soft little story about faith and patience and waiting for better days. It shows up when your body is tired, your mind is fried, and your heart is still way more attached than your pride would like to admit. It shows up when you finally understand that freedom may hurt, but staying is already hurting you more every single day. It sounds less like maybe he will change and more like I can survive what comes next if what comes next is mine. Now your attention starts looking toward your own life and what it requires. The question is no longer, can he become safe enough to keep? It is whether you are ready to stop treating your own survival like it should wait for his development. That is the shift where real hope begins. The moment where your future stops orbiting his potential and his words and his way of doing things and starts coming back into your body. You start seeing that leaving does not require perfection. You do not need emotional clarity. You do not need a nervous system that feels calm. You do not need to stop loving him first. You do not need to become some untouched, fearless woman before you are allowed to take yourself seriously. What you do need is the willingness to accept that fear can ride beside you while your life finally starts moving. So many of you have been waiting to feel ready, and that wait has become another prison. Readiness is a feeling, and it's not what comes first. You taking action comes first. Truth comes first. Private decisions come first. And your body catches up later. Hope gets real when it becomes practical enough to hold weight. You stop asking yourself whether you can picture every step and start asking whether you can handle one honest move. You no longer obsess over the entire staircase and start putting your foot on the first stair. You open the email. You save the money. You tell one safe person what is really happening. You start paying attention to what it's costing you instead of getting hypnotized by what he said after the damage was done. You begin planning while still grieving. You begin moving while still attached. You begin thinking about your future while still waking up inside a body that is scared to trust no one. None of that disqualifies your hope. It proves that it's alive. The deepest part of this, and the piece that I need you to take very personally, is that hope is also your refusal to let this become your final identity. Abuse does a filthy thing to the self. It takes the sharpest, brightest, clearest parts of you and convinces you they are gone. It makes confidence feel like a version of you from another lifetime, that self-trust feels like arrogance. It makes desire feel irrelevant. It makes money feel out of reach for you. It makes peace feel like something that belongs to stronger people. It makes freedom sound false. Then you start looking at yourself through the damage and calling that the truth. No, the truth is that this relationship has had your life in a fucking chokehold. The truth is that your body has adapted to survive it. The truth is what got buried. The truth is what got buried can breathe again. Real hope is the decision to stop calling buried things dead. You do not need hope that he becomes the man you begged him to be. You need hope that your body can heal from what it has had to carry. That your mind can get clear again. That confidence can return in a form that is even stronger because now it is built on truth instead of naivety. You need hope that money can become part of your freedom instead of one more chain around your ankle. That there's a version of you on the other side of this that is not constantly in panic mode, editing yourself, trying to earn emotional safety from someone committing to making it conditional. You need hope that one day your nervous system will not treat every shift in tone like the building is on fire. You need hope that your body can become a place you want to live in again. Staying available for pain is not depth. Hanging your whole future on his next breakthrough is not faith. Tolerating another cycle because part of you still wants the story to end better is not proof of your heart. It is proof that your hope has been aimed at the wrong person. You do not need to become less loving or colder or kill the part of you that wants a beautiful life. You need to stop offering the part of you to the man who keeps using it to keep you seated. The real work is not to become hopeless. The real work is to bring your hope back home to you. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I told you that I wanted you to walk away with tangible things that could help you get hope back in your own hands. Hope comes back through evidence. That is the part that too many people skip because it is less sexy than inspiration and way more useful. You do not get your hope back by waiting to feel different. You do not get it back by sitting in the same cycle trying to think prettier thoughts. You do not get it back by collecting one more quote about courage while your actual life stays parked in the same hell. Hope comes back when your body starts seeing proof that your future is still in play. It comes back when your actions start saying something your fear has been trying to bury. It comes back when your life stops being only about what he is doing and starts including what you are building, even if what you are building is quiet, small, messy, private, and nowhere near finished yet. Start with the truth in writing. I do not mean a little journal entry where you accidentally romance your own suffering. Write down what is actually happening, what he said, what he did, how it landed, what came after, what it cost you. Write the pattern, not the excuse. Write the cycle, not the apology. Write the full reality, not the little polished version your nervous system keeps serving you every time he throws one soft moment into a room and your body wants to believe that it meant something. Abuse creates confusion on purpose, and that fog can keep you debating what you should already be clear on. It keeps you looping. It keeps you sentimental. It keeps you disqualifying patterns you know to be true. Once you write out your truth stops having to fight for its life inside of your own head. It gets to stand somewhere. And when you write it, you do not clean it up for anybody else to read. Do not translate it into something nicer. Do not say things like, we had another misunderstanding. If he twisted the whole conversation until you were questioning yourself, do not write, he was having a hard day, if he made your body feel unsafe in your own home. Do not write, we are both struggling, if the reality is that you are carrying the emotional cost of his instability while also being expected to keep functioning like none of it is happening. Call it what it is. Some of you have spent so long speaking gently about brutal experiences that your own pain has started sounding optional. Stop doing that. If you want your hope back, your truth has to stop being edited into something easier to survive. Then track what happens after the promise. Because a lot of you are still getting emotionally taken out by the speech and not forcing yourself to look at the aftermath. He says he gets it. Sure, fine. What happened next? He said he's going to change. Fine. What happened next? Okay, he cried. Fine. What happened next? He gives you the deep talk, the soft tone, the future plans, the accountability sounding sentence that almost makes your body fall to the floor in relief. Fine. What happened next? How long did it last? What returned? What got repeated? What part of you softened too early? What did the softness cost you? That is where hope starts getting cleaner, because now you are no longer evaluating him by the promise. You are evaluating him by the pattern after the promise. Those are not the same thing. And too many of you have been handing out emotional credit like the check has already cleared when all you got was another speech and another wound. Next, you need one private point of power, not 20 things, not some big list or a giant operation that overwhelms you and sends your nervous system straight back into freeze. One single thing. One corner of your life that already belongs to the future version of you. One move that lets you know your life is not fully under his control, even if parts of it still feel trapped right now. That could be money put somewhere safe, a private email. That could be documents saved where he cannot get them. It might be telling one person the full truth. It could be a packed bag, a lawyer consultation, a place to go, a therapist, a lawyer, or a new contact saved under another name. The actual object or what you choose to do matters less than the energy behind it. You need something that belongs to you and not the version of you who has been stuck in reaction mode. A private point of power changes the internal climate. It tells your body there is still an exit in the building. It lets your fear know it is not the only one making decisions anymore. And it tells the part of you that has felt completely trapped that somebody is finally taking herself seriously. Now, I'm going to be sharp here because some of you keep acting like tiny moves do not count unless they are big enough to impress somebody. That is ego. Tiny moves count because they interrupt helplessness. Helplessness is one of the deepest killers of hope inside of abuse. And feels like nothing she does matters, her body starts collapsing inwards. She stops reaching, stops planning, stops believing movement is even worth trying. Private point of power pushes back on that collapse. It does not need to solve your whole life. It needs to tell the truth that your life is still movable. That matters more than you think. You also need to stop asking whether he means it and start asking whether you can live like this for another year. That question is a weapon, and I need you to use it. Whether he means it or not is often the wrong question. He may mean it in the moment. He may mean it when he's scared of losing access. He may mean it while he is crying. He may mean it for 10 minutes, 2 days, or a weekend, and none of that changes what your life keeps costing. Intent does not restore your nervous system or rebuild your confidence or give your children a peaceful home. It does not fix the fact that you have been living in dread, self-doubt, confusion, and emotional management for far too long. The better question is whether you can survive another year of this without becoming a stranger to yourself, of waiting for moods to pass, of shrinking, of replaying conversations, another year of financial stress, or carrying around the emotional weight that he keeps calling it something else. These questions are brutally clarifying because it drags the focus off of his internal experience and puts you back in your actual life. Now, build proof around yourself. Not fantasy, not someday, proof. One hard phone call, tell one safe person the truth. One appointment, one conversation, you stop minimizing what is happening. One boundary that does not sound like a paragraph of trying to make him comfortable without your self-respect in the room. One step towards money that is yours. One piece of research. One ride lined up, one lawyer consulted, one note saved. Proof changes something primal in the body. A body that has been trained into helplessness starts waking up when it sees action, not because the whole problem is solved, but because the spell gets interrupted. You are no longer surviving what is happening. You are now participating in what happens next, and that is a massive shift. And before you talk yourself out of it, let me say this to you. You do not need to be doing the biggest thing. You need to be doing the next honest thing, and those are not the same. Abuse loves overwhelm because overwhelm keeps you frozen. Overwhelm keeps the idea of freedom huge, shiny, abstract, and far away. The next honest thing brings it down to earth. It is manageable enough for your body to digest. It teaches your nervous system that movement is possible. It's going to be how you start getting your self-respect back, because every time you act in favor of your future, no matter how small the move looks from the outside, you are telling yourself the truth in behavior. You are saying, my life still matters. You are saying, I am not done. You are saying, this is all I get. You also need to start picturing the version of you with more honesty and less fantasy. Not healing overnight, not floating around like nothing's happened. I mean real hope. Picture sleeping deeper, thinking clearer, not waking up already in defense mode, not opening up your phone and having your stomach drop, not having your money controlled, eating without dread in your chest. I want you to picture you laughing with friends and not feeling like you have borrowed time, that you no longer spend your day tracking mood, reading your room, or trying to decide whether tonight is safe enough for you to exhale. I want you to picture your body not treating home like a threat, your confidence returning in a way that is not naive anymore. You now have standards with teeth. Your peace does not have to be negotiated. You are now harder to manipulate because you know exactly what it costs you to ignore your own reads. I want you to understand what it feels like to be lit up again, having range again. The version of you who is not gone. You are just waiting for yourself to have enough proof to come back online. That image matters because abuse trains your mind to rehearse danger all day long. It gets you excellent at picturing what can go wrong. It gets you fluent in worst case scenarios, and it gets you so used to anticipating disaster that imagining a better life starts feeling irresponsible or fake. You need to challenge that, not with delusion, with contact. You need contact with the version of you who is not being eaten alive by this, with the fact that your current life is not the final draft, with a future that feels possible enough to walk toward, and consistently making moves. Nobody moves towards what she refuses to picture. Nobody fights for a life you have already declared that is too far away or out of touch. So this is the point. Hope comes back online when your actions start proving that your life still belongs to you, when the truth has somewhere to live, when patterns get documented instead of argued with, when promises stop getting full credit and outcomes start being the thing you measure, when you build one private point of power, when you ask better questions, when you collect proof, when you stop demanding that your body feels fearless before you let your life start moving, when you stop calling yourself powerless while doing absolutely nothing that would challenge that feeling. That is a soul punch for you. Hope is not waiting to feel better. Hope is what starts happening when you begin acting like your future is still yours. When you first come to work with me, hope usually is not missing because you do not want it badly enough. It is hard to access because your body has been carrying way too much for way too long, and everything feels heavy, urgent, expensive, and overwhelming all at once. You are not sitting there refusing hope like some stubborn little asshole. You are exhausted, mentally cooked, trying to figure out next steps while your nervous system still thinks survival is a full-time job. That is why some of you get in front of me and can barely picture next week. Never mind your freedom, healing, confidence, money, peace, or a whole new life. You are not failing at hope. You are just too deep in the weight of it all to hold it by yourself yet. And that is where my job begins in a very real way. Yes, I coach you on how to build hope back through truth, action, support, and self-respect. But my job is holding that hope for you when you cannot fully hold it yourself. I hold the version for you when your body is still shaking. I hold the bigger picture when all you can see is the next hard conversation, the next bill, the next wave of grief, or the next thing you have to survive. And little by little, with enough truth, proof, and support, the hope stops living only in my hands and starts coming back home to land in yours. Before we wrap up today, I want to share a moment with a coaching client inside of the RRR membership who got on a call with me, our initial call, and she said, Megan, I don't actually have hope, and I think that's the problem. And I told her, that's not the problem. You are just exhausted. And she looked at me and she started crying because nobody had said that to her before. She thought she was failing at healing and leaving because she could not picture freedom in a very bright way. She thought that the fact that she still felt scared and attached and confused and overwhelmed meant she was not really ready. What was actually true was that her whole body was fried. She had been spending so much time managing him, the house, the tension, the aftermath of every single fight, the next step that felt enormous. She did not need a lecture on being positive. She needed someone to tell her the truth, which was that she was not hopeless. She was overloaded. I asked her a question that I want to share with you. If I took him out of the picture for a second, what is the part you're most scared of? She said, I'm scared I'll leave and I'll fall apart, that I won't be able to handle it, I won't have enough money, that I'll miss him and go back, and that this is just my life now. That is a real answer. That is where women actually are. It might be where you are today. And what I said to her was, then we are not doing your whole future today. We are doing one move. Hope is too heavy for you to hold all at once right now, so I'm going to hold it with you and for you. You do not need to see the whole road. You just need to take the next step that belongs to you completely. And she went quiet and she responded with, I think I can do one thing. And moments like that, it's not instant courage. It is a very exhausted woman who's dealt with way more than she should, finally telling the truth. Me telling her that she's not broken. One next move instead of reshaping her whole life. And that is how I help my clients getting hope back online in one call, because then we were able to make an exit plan for her, and she is happy and free of her marriage and living a life she could have never dreamed of on that first call. You do not need to be fully over them for your life to start moving in the right direction. Love can still be there while clarity gets stronger. Fear can still be there while your future starts mattering more. Grief can still be there while you are making practical decisions. None of that disqualifies you from getting free. Waiting for perfect certainty will keep too many of you trapped. Waiting to feel fearless will keep too many of you stuck. Waiting until the attachment is gone will keep too many of you locked in where you are. The move usually starts earlier than that. It's when the truth gets heavier than the fantasy. When self-respect gets louder than waiting, when your hope finally turns and faces the right direction. You do not need hope that he changes. You do not need hope that the next apology finally becomes your new life. You do not need hope that one more soft moment makes the damage worth it. You need hope that serves you. The hope that helps you tell the truth, make the plan, protect the money, build the support, and stop treating your future like it should wait for him. If this episode cracks something open in you, good. That means you're waking up. Please share this with another woman that needs it. Hit follow so you do not miss the next one. Send me a DM on Instagram to tell me what landed the hardest for you. And we both know that another podcast episode of mine is not what you need to leave, even if you found this valuable. If you are still inside of it, trying to leave it, or fresh out and trying to get your mind, body, confidence, and life back, there are 2 ways I can help you right now. Private coaching call with me, and we will make a plan together with where you are at and exactly what you need. Whether it is an emotional or a physical exit, breaking a trauma bond, support with co-parenting, or navigating the court system, nothing is off the table. Most of my clients do start here, and then they either move into the RRR membership or the Black Cat Academy. The RRR membership is your new home. Active coaching with calls and message support, and a community of women who have a desire to leave, are in the process of leaving, or have left abuse. This is where hope stops being a private ache and becomes real rebuilding through root level coaching. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, where hope is not a fantasy. Hope is what starts happening when you stop giving your future to the person hurting you so you can leave, heal, rebuild, and become unrecognizable to the life that almost swallowed you.